The Escrow Associates of San Gabriel Valley is proud to present for you today our PD workshop series. And here we are in our PD workshop. Taking the PD test is going to be our first session, and we're going to talk a little bit about this today. First of all, what is the timetable for taking the test? The tests are given 6 times a year throughout the state, as long as there are minimum test takers at each time. You have 18 months to take the test. There are 3 parts to it, and if you fail one part, you can take it again within the 18 months for an extra fee. You have to take all the 3 tests within the 18 months in order to get your certification. If not, you will have to start all over again. So there are 3 areas of testing. First of all, we've got the problem solving. Then we have the oral exam, always a wonderful one. And then we have the true false and the multiple choice. So let's talk a little bit about what is involved in each and what we are looking for. In the problem solving, we are looking for you being able to read and follow instructions. Remember, the escrow officer follows instructions. So this is where you're going to be tested. Secondly, there will be proration abilities and math. Very important, proration abilities. Then we have proficiency on drawing documents. Our oral exam will test you on your basic processing knowledge as well as your escrow procedure knowledge. Also, it will test to see how well you do under pressure. The multiple choice true and false is one section put together. What we're going to be looking for is your basic escrow background, your terminology, understanding of the question that is asked you, and again, prorations. So let me tell you a little bit about how each one section is graded. For the problem solving, if you're a CEO or CSCO test taker, you will need to get 450 points to pass. Now, 600 points is the total, but 450 to pass. And there is a 3-hour time limit on the test. For a CET, it's 280 points total and 196 points to pass. You have 2.5 hours. On the CET test, what are we looking for? We're looking for a standard refinance, an institutional lender payoff, a quitclaim deed to be drawn up, and of course, the borrower has to bring in exact amount to close, and you will have to know how to review the prelim. On the CEO test, you're going to be doing a purchase transaction on a CAR contract. You will be probably doing a seller carryback, adjusting the note amount to the amount needed to close. And you will do an assumption, you will do a payoff, and you will need to know all about the state, federal, 1099, and withholding guidelines. The CSCO test is very much like the CAO test, except it has a higher liability amount. So again, purchase transaction on CAR contract, the assumption, the seller carryback to adjust the note amount at closing, payoffs, possibly an all-inclusive trustee will be thrown in there somewhere. And of course, you will have to know about the state, federal, 1099, and withholding guidelines also. Let me give you some tips regarding the problem-solving section. First of all, as you can imagine, you need to review the CAR contract. You need to learn where all the clauses are so that you are not wasting time looking for it during the test. You will also need to be sure you are reading the instructions, because there will be general instructions given, carefully, and the prelim carefully. Follow instructions. Also, when you are doing the problem section, there are certain things you can do. For instance, highlighting. Highlight the important parts. Make notations on the test or on a separate piece of paper. You can also separate the parts of the test and lay it out in stacks for easy access so that you can find what you need quickly. You can use Post-it notes to help you mark portions of the test or notate. Treat this as if this were a new escrow that is opening and closing immediately, and that you are reviewing the file. Parts of the test will be put out in the Scantron, so please fill out the correct bubble line when you're doing that part of the test. Don't make the mistake and do it and fill out the wrong line, bubble line. Transfer the answers onto the correct line on the answer sheet. There's parts of the test in which they will provide you with an answer sheet. Don't forget to transfer the answers over to that sheet. Just because you're showing it on the settlement sheet is not going to be enough. What the graders are going to look at is that you actually transferred your answers from the settlement sheet or the estimated closing statement to the final answer sheet. Practice drawing the documents, the grant deed, the quitclaim deed, the note, the trust deed, and particularly the title transmittal form. We know that we don't use title transmittals so much now, but they are a necessary part in the test. So do remember to practice on what is required on the title transmittal sheets so that you can answer the questions on the test. Review your property tax payment dates. You know the taxes are paid twice a year. Review to make sure you have it in your mind when they start, when they end, who pays, when is the late payment, payment due. Also, practice the payoffs and the date calculations. They say two days after the close of escrow. Be sure you add 2 days. Practice how to pay off on a per diem basis. Now, it is important for you to practice taxes, rents, homeowners dues, and insurance prorations. Now, you're going to say, we don't do insurance prorations anymore. We know that, but at least you need to know how to do them if the event comes up that you need to do them. So practice, practice, practice. Learn how to read the prelim, Schedule A, Schedule B, the notes and requirements sections. And of course, learning all about the FERPA California withholding guidelines. The next one is the oral exam section. Now, usually for an oral exam, we'd like to have 2 or 3 interviewers for every person who is going to be taking the exam. For 3 interviewers, there will be 180 points with 120 points to pass. If there's 2 interviewers only, then there will be 120 points with 80 to pass. The section itself takes about 10 to 15 minutes. The interviewers will ask you, somewhere between 3 to 5 questions. For the CET, the interviewers will also be 2 to 3, and for 3 interviewers, you will have a total of 90 points you could get with 60 to pass, and for 2 interviewers, you'll have 60 points with 40 to pass. Again, 10 to 15 minutes, 3 to 5 questions. Remember, the instructors are not trying to fail you. They're going to do their hardest to make sure you pass this. So they will ask you questions, they will prompt you, they will try to pull it out for you if they feel that you may have blanked out at that moment. In fact, of all 3 sections, I think that the oral interview section is probably the easiest to pass. Now, what are we grading on? First of all, we're grading on the ability to communicate properly, the familiarity that you might have with the escrow terminology, and of course, your knowledge of good escrow practices. Also, we will be grading you on composure under stress. So, what are some of the tips that we can give you for the oral exam? First of all, pretend you're discussing an issue with an assistant. Be sure you give off a calm and relaxed demeanor, and smile. It always helps. Now we're going to talk about the true-false multiple choice. For a CEO or CSCO person, we have 150 true-false points that you're going to be getting, and 150 multiple choice questions for 450 points. You will need a total of 450 to pass the whole thing. You will be given 2.5 hours to do this. For a CET, you will have 150 questions and you will need 105 points to pass. You also have 2.5 hours. So what are we looking for when we ask you to take the true-false multiple choice? First of all, again, see how important it is? Prorations, taxes, rents, homeowners association, and insurance. General transfer tax calculation, very important. When you are doing an assumption or a subject to and the transfer tax is calculated on less liens, we need you to know that. Also, we want you to be sure that you have the general knowledge about the whole escrow and title process. And finally, terminology. The true and false and multiple choice is actually the hardest of all sections, I feel, of the PD test. So here are some tips for you. First of all, the multiple choice questions are worth 3 for every question. So try to concentrate on those. If you don't know a question, you don't know the answer, skip it and go over to the next. And be sure if you skip, you fill out the correct Scantron bubble so that you don't miss one or throw everything out of whack. If you don't leave a blank bubble at the end, then you will have filled out the whole test and you may get good points where you might not have gotten it. So the best thing for you to do is where there is a question in which you don't know the answer to, try it, fill it out, at least fill out the blank bubble so that it doesn't count as a wrong answer. Practice prorations and transfer tax calculations. Study the title handbook, very important, the title handbook and the PD workshop study guide. Learn all about your corporate entities, your LLCs, your limited partnerships, your corporations. What is it that you need from these entities in order to make sure that the title is transferred properly? Also learn all about your vestings and some of the title endorsements, especially the commonly used ones. Title insurance policies. What types are there? What do they cover? And of course, government agencies that we have to deal with through our transaction. Finally, we've got the FIRPTA, the California withholding, and the 1099. Brush up on those and be sure you know what are your escrow holders' fiduciary duties. How to prepare? Well, preparation is absolutely the key. First of all, find a coach who can guide you. Or, and if you can, find a friend who can study with and push you along. Take a PD test workshop, just like this one, and do what the instructors recommend that you do. You can also use flashcards to help memorization, and that is a very good thing to have, especially for endorsements and terminology. On one side, you put the endorsement number. On the other side, you put what it is. And when you have time, as you're sitting there waiting on hold, you can look at the flashcards and learn. If you don't know, ask. Ask your superior, ask a senior escrow officer, ask your title officer. Practice, practice, practice. Practice the sample tests. Practice by balancing your files by hand. And if you happen to have old files, pull them out and balance those by hand. That's a very good way, a very good tool. Practice using a calculator. Yes, a calculator with batteries. Try using the same calculator a month before the test. The battery-operated calculator is important because at the test site, there may not be an electrical outlet for you to use. So be sure you bring new batteries in before the test. Be sure that the calculator can go up to 4 decimal points. And be sure that you use this calculator at the test. Please don't keep using the calculator before the test and then forget to bring it into the test. That has happened before. Bring extra calculator tape if that is going to be required. Take the sample test that you've taken before, take it again and again until you get 100%. And again, as I said, use your closed files as your sample tests. Okay, so let's go ahead and review this a little bit more. PD Workshop Study Guide, Title Handbook, Escrow 1, 2, and 3, they just came out and you can purchase them directly from the California Escrow Association. Glossary. Now there is glossary behind the Escrow 1, 2, and 3 books. There's also glossary behind the Title Handbook. Read them. Put them on your flashcards. Endorsements. Title Handbook, even calling the title company for some information. All those are avenues that you can go to get the proper information. And again, sample tests. So, on the day of the test, what should you look out for? Earplugs. Earplugs is a good thing. If you're the kind of person who gets easily distracted, bring some earplugs so that you can actually cut off all of the extra noise. Be sure you get a good night's sleep and a good hearty breakfast. Make sure that you go to the restrooms before you go in because nobody can think on a full ladder, really. And be sure you bring in not only a lot of number 2 pencils, but also a good eraser. On the day of the test, pretend that you are at your desk. Spread out the paperwork into separate piles for easy access. Read the instructions that they give you carefully. Highlight important parts. Make notations on the test or the separate paper to help you. Use Post-it notes if you are used to using something like that to make notes on. And be careful on the transfer of the numbers from your worksheet to the answer sheet. Do not transpose the numbers. We've seen that done. And do not put it on the wrong line. Definitely. If the answers have to be put on the answer sheet, do so if instructed. And complete the correct bubble on the Scantron. If you have to erase, be sure you erase it carefully and cleanly. So, are you taking the PD exam? Well, good luck, and may the force be with you. This is the Escrow Associates of San Gabriel Valley. We are number 1, and we support you. My name is Juliana Tu, and you can contact me at any time. Thank you very much.